The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone, and it's 2025. We're delighted to have you back with us. So much has transpired since our last show, including the selection of Mike Johnson of Louisiana as the House Speaker. This sets the deck for the certification of President Donald Trump's election today. But the big news seems to be north of our northern border. That is reportedly the imminent resignation of Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, allegedly the illegitimate son of Fidel Castro. Yes, I believe that. Here to help me break that down is, first of all, my co-host, the editor-in-chief of Slingshot.news, Troy Smith.
Roger, it's always an honor to be back with you in the Stone Zone.
Troy, I hope you are feeling good and feisty for 2025.
Absolutely, Roger. Ready to go to war. Ready to go to war.
All right. Now we're going to bring in one of my personal heroes. He is a professional hockey legend, beloved both in the United States and in his native Canada. Theo Fleury, from above our northern border, my Canadian friend, joins us now in the Stone Zone.
Hey, Raj. Happy New Year.
Theo, it is so great to see you. Now, I could, read off a list of all your athletic experiences, but it would take up the entire show, and I don't think it's necessary. You are beloved both in this country and in your own. When I tell people that you and I are friends, they are just bowled over. You've rededicated your life from athletics to truth-telling, to democracy, to freedom for people, and to the Lord. And you have a great story to tell. You've overcome extraordinary adversity, not only to be a great athlete, but to be a great patriot. So it's an honor for us to have you with us here today.
Yeah, thank you, Roger, for those kind words. It's an interesting day in Canada, that's for sure. So where this is all headed, I don't even know at this point. But, I was just listening to the press conference, and Trudeau has, in fact, resigned as the leader of the Liberal Party. But at the same time, he's also prorogued Parliament till the end of March so that they can find a leader. And I guess once that happens, then the House will bring a vote of non-confidence, and hopefully we'll go into an election shortly after that in March.
It's interesting. Last night, I was in a bar. I mean, where else are you going to be on Sunday night? I was actually going to pick up some carry-out food for my wife. There's a couple at the bar and said, "Oh, we're so excited to read that you're going to be working in the Canadian elections." I said, "Pardon me?" "Oh yeah, we read it. We read it on X that you're going to be working in the Canadian elections." I said, "Well, I hate to hurt your feelings, lady. I have a lot of great friends in Canada, like yourself and Joseph and others. But no, I'm not. I'm certainly going to support from here the forces of freedom, the forces of liberty." It's very sad what's happened to your country, in the sense that, being Canadian, like the United States, all of our jurisprudence comes from the UK, which was originally the cradle of democracy, the Magna Carta, and so on. But under Pierre Trudeau, your country has become an authoritarian country. I think about those truck convoy men and women who simply because they expressed their free speech rights, they didn't harm anybody, they didn't attack anybody, they didn't hurt anybody, there was no violence, but they have been harassed. They have had their bank accounts frozen. They have there have been attempts to, in many cases, to jail them. To me, that's reminiscent of the kind of thing you'd see in Nazi Germany or Soviet Russia.
Mhm.
So, as far as I'm concerned, Pierre Trudeau, he can't leave soon enough.
Yes. Well, I've been saying this for a long time. We are under a communist takeover in Canada, and Justin Trudeau has been the main sort of character in bringing us into that state. And obviously, he's polling right now where the Conservative Party of Canada will probably have a super majority government. There's 338 seats available in Canada, and looks like the Conservatives will have well over 250, maybe even more seats once the next election happens. So for us in Canada, the election cannot happen. We want it to be sooner, and obviously, and the simple fact that China infiltrated the election in 2019 and 2021, and there were a dozen MPs who were involved in this scandal, and still there's no names that have been put forward or anything like that. And so, I've been saying for a long time that we have not had a legitimate government here in Canada. And if you know anything about communism, the communists steal elections, and then once they get in power, then they start to pass illegitimate laws. And, we've got a bunch of laws on the table right now that if are passed, will take us even further down that road to, that communist takeover that I was talking about. Free speech is on the table. Gun confiscation is on the table as well. And so, Canada's in a really scary place right now. But the positive thing is, the number one perpetrator of all of this craziness and insanity has decided that he can no longer run the country, and he is eventually going to step down, which is, a positive thing.
It's a shame because, as you know, President Trump had a job for him. He could have been governor of Canada if Canada wanted to become our 51st state, which proves that President Donald Trump has one of the greatest senses of humor of any president that we had. Liberals' heads were exploding when he said that. Folks,
Oh, yeah.
It was a joke. Lighten up. It was a joke, but it was a pretty darn funny joke. My understanding now, just of the process now that Trudeau has resigned, the Liberal Party, his party, will caucus, and they select among their members of parliament. They will appoint an interim leader who would serve temporarily. This person would take on the temporary role of prime minister until the permanent prime minister is chosen. The Liberal Party leadership race is one we'll be watching, although I frankly think they're all the same. They all share the same radical Trotskyite ideology. These people hate freedom. When folks say we want to register your guns because we want to know where they are, if you own a firearm, we need to know that you own it. You don't have to be an idiot to see that the next step is for them to show up and pick it up. That's what that's about. Just to give you an example, the Liberal Party then would organize their leadership contest to elect a new leader. Candidates would announce their campaigns, party members and campaigns, and party members and supporters would vote for their choice. And the preferred candidates through a long leadership convention using perhaps ranked choice voting, which we've discussed here on their show. Once the new party minister is selected, as I understand it, the Governor General of Canada would formally invite that person to form a government. The new party leader would then be sworn in temporarily as prime minister. Could you have an earlier election than the one that is scheduled? Well, that's a question we're going to ask Theo Fleury.
Yeah, there is a possibility, but the other communist party in Canada called the New Democrat Party has been propping up the Trudeau government. So we've had, I think, 3 or 4 non-confidence votes, and all of them have been squashed because of the support, like I said, of the other communist party, the New Democratic Party, that is run by a guy named Jagmeet Singh. And so and he is actually eligible for his pension somewhere in the near future here. So we believe that that's the reason why he's been propping up the Trudeau government, because Canada only has a minority government right now, and in order for them to get the votes that they need the other party to vote with the Liberal Party of Canada. So, it's just craziness and insanity 24 hours a day up here in Canada. And, even though Trudeau announced his resignation, we still have a long, long ways to go before we get to the point where we do have a conservative sort of Republican party here in Canada. So stay tuned. More will be revealed, and but more importantly, that the simple fact that he's stepping down, there's so many questions, there's so many scandals here in Canada, and we could probably even start to mention words like treason and traitor and illegal activity, money laundering, you name it, the full gamut of all of that is on the table. And for him to just be able to walk away without any consequences of the actions which he has put forward in the last, since 2015 when he got elected, is something to be desired. And I would hope that the new party here, the Conservative Party of Canada, would start to talk about, if they get in power, that there will be some investigations into this, craziness that has happened, like I said, over the last, 10, 12 years here.
Yeah, it's really extraordinary to which the extent of the events in Canada are just analogous to what we've seen here in our own country. What I said to people before our election is, if you want to see what's going to happen to the United States if Kamala Harris is elected, just look at what's already happening from amongst our brothers to the north in Canada. Troy, folks, if you're just tuning in, we are privileged to have the professional hockey legend Theo Fleury, who's become a very good friend of mine, a brother in Christ, a patriot, a man who has overcome extraordinary adversity to not only be an outstanding record-winning athlete, but a real spokesman for freedom in a country where people who speak up for freedom are harassed and who are reviled by the weak, effeminate, fragile, leftist Canada liberals. These people are the most pathetic people I have ever seen in their life. Theo, there's a great picture of you on 2nd Avenue in New York City when you came to visit me. This picture, when it's posted on X, it makes liberal heads explode. Just makes them explode.
That's why I posted it.
I post it constantly because I'm so very proud of our friendship. Troy, you have a question for the living legend, Theo Fleury, and then let's show a little video of Justin Trudeau in retreat.
Absolutely, Roger. Thank you. And Mr. Fleury, I just want to say it's an honor to speak with you. We've seen in the United States coalescing around Donald Trump that includes people that were traditionally Democrats. Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrat congresswoman, endorsed Trump, and she was nominated now to be Secretary of or Director of National Intelligence. And I wanted to ask you: are you seeing a similar situation in Canada where people who were traditionally liberal and conservative coming together, really under the name of freedom, to combat this kind of frontal assault on your freedoms by Justin Trudeau?
Mm. Well, I think the simple fact that the next government in Canada will be a conservative government, and not only a conservative government, but a super majority government. So, Eastern Canada usually votes liberal, and the big cities like Toronto, Vancouver, Ottawa are mainly liberal mainstays. But what we're seeing is that, Trudeau has done such a poor job over the last 10, 15 years, and inflation is high, taxing is high, like everything, like it's almost unaffordable for people to be able to afford, the basic needs here in Canada. And so what we're seeing is that a lot of people who voted for Justin the first three times are saying, I can't do this anymore. I can't, like I said, I can't afford my bills. I can't afford, like, the simple fact that, we're the third largest country in the world for resources. And we have over 2 million people out of the 41 million people who live in our country. 2 million people every month are lining up at food banks because of affordability issues. And so, similar to what has gone on in the United States with climate, BS and all this stuff, is that we are unable to sell our greatest asset, which then funds the whole entire country. They have basically completely shut down any type of business and have just spent like drunken sailors. And here we are, at a crisis point. And that's probably the reason why a lot of people who maybe have voted liberal in the past are going, you know what, we just can't have this, and we need a change, and we need some new blood, and we need some new ideas. And but ultimately, you know what, we need a whole entire new system of government here in Canada, and we would love to have a constitutional republic such as yourselves. We need to get out of the British monarchy and run our country in a way different way than we've done it in the past. And I think if we can do that, Canada should be one of the richest, most prosperous countries in the world. And under this woke DEI SOGI craziness, we have not only slipped out of the top 10, but we're not even in the we're not even in the top 100 anymore. So hopefully with this announcement today, that the ball will start moving in the right direction, and we can once again get our great country back to the way that it was before Trudeau came into power.
One more question before we go to some video here. I'd like to hear your opinion of the Conservative Party leader, Pierre Provost. I'll mispronounce his name.
Poilievre.
It's interesting because our mutual friend Tucker Carlson sent me this great video in which some leftist reporter is trying to trip him up, and Pierre is calmly eating an apple. He just decimates this guy. I mean, he decimates him. I said, and the guy says, well, people say, that you're an authoritarian like Trump. And Pierre says, really? What people? Well, people. And Pierre says, well, no, wait a minute. What people? And of course, the guy can't cite anyone. It was one of the funniest pieces of videotape I've ever seen. What is your view of Mr. Povert?
Well, unfortunately, under our system, you have limited choices, just like in the US, you're either Republican or Democrat. That's you get to vote for either party or a libertarian candidate. Whereas in Canada, we have the Conservative Party, we have the Liberal Party, we have the NDP Party, we have the Greens, and then we have the Bloc de Québécois. And so there are many choices, but my opinion of Poilievre is he is a poll guy. And so he'll do a poll before he lends his support to whatever thing. And so for me, I don't believe the guy has one original thought in his mind. He will not step out into the fire. He is very, I believe he's weak. But, at this point, we only have limited choices, and it looks like that he and his party will become, the leaders in our country. And then hopefully, it's up to us patriots here in Canada to hold him to account for the decisions that he's going to make forward. But unfortunately, until the system changes, and as we've seen over the last since 2015, is that the Prime Minister of Canada, when he is voted in, has way too much power. And then as citizens, it is very difficult for us to be able to hold the leader to accountability. And so, yeah, as much as I'm hoping that Pierre will do the job, the jury is still out for me. But we also have another alternative Conservative Party, which is the People's Party of Canada, who is run by a guy named Maxime Bernier, who is very similar to Donald Trump. And he wants to get out of NATO. He wants to get out of the World Health Organization. He wants to get out of NATO, all of these things. But unfortunately, because we have a communist media conglomerate here in Canada, the PPC party gets zero coverage. Max is not interviewed by the mainstream media in Canada. And so it's very difficult for that party to get their full message out there. But, what I would love to see is a majority Conservative government with the PPC as the leading opposition in the House of Commons would be the, probably the best scenario that we could have up here in Canada, which would mean it would be completely conservative, similar to the Republican Party in the United States. And I'm sure that Donald Trump would rather work with an entity such as that, as opposed to, having to work with Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland and all these insane communists who have infiltrated our country, in the last, like I said, 10, 15 years here. So more, like I said, more will be revealed. Obviously today, I'm sure everybody in Canada is feeling better, but obviously we've got a long ways to go. Our election is scheduled for next October, but hopefully we can push an early election and get these woke DEI, SOGI, World Satanic Forum people out of our country as soon as possible.
People do not really appreciate the level of censorship and free expression in Canada. It is far, far worse than the United States was at the depths before Elon Musk purchased Twitter and turned it into X. The government really limits free expression on all platforms. It's very hard for a candidate like Max Bernier to get his message out, and that is, I think, a detriment I apologize again for mangling Pierre's last name. French is not my first language. Troy, let's go to some video here of the Prime Minister and also doings in Canada, and take a look.
Well, Roger, a great video that we have right here that I want people to see. This is it just shows a level of disdain that people have for him. We want to play this first. This is thousands of people protesting Justin Trudeau, kind of saying that he has to leave, and then right after that video, we can play a video of him praising communist China. And I want to ask Theo about the involvement of Trudeau with the communist Chinese. You know, we've seen reports that a Canadian military goes over to China to celebrate the anniversary of their Navy almost every single year in a big parade celebration. Just amazing stuff. Let's roll the protest video, then him praising China. Then let's come back to Mr. Fleury on that hot button issue, Trudeau and China in bed together. Just disgusting.
Even with Sun TV watching for any slip, he was asked which country he most admired and referred to China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China, because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted. That I find quite interesting.
This is, I think, gives you some idea of the depth of opposition to this government. The sad thing is, in Canada, how many of those people who are marching are risking having their bank accounts frozen? Or risking harassment by the government. It's extraordinary, the authoritarian nature of this administration. Theo, your reaction to Justin Trudeau's fealty to one of the most oppressive regimes in the country, communist China.
Yeah. Well, I've been saying that from the day I actually heard that, statement from him, that we were in big trouble. Anybody who admires basic dictatorships, who is running a democratic country, sends a red flag up the pole. But, what we saw happen during COVID, we were under one of the most strictest, crazy, insane things during the pandemic. We're locked down, mandated to take vaccines, you name it. And then, a bunch of brave truckers got in their trucks and headed to Ottawa. And by the time they got there, they actually became the official opposition party in Canada, the truckers. And not only that, they also showed up, and they had $20 million in their bank account. And so Trudeau panicked. And, whoever's running Canada, because Trudeau's not running Canada, it's probably the World Economic Forum, and Klaus Schwab basically said to Trudeau, we cannot have this. And so what we saw is they illegally invoked the Emergencies Act, brought in the military, started beating freedom fighters and arresting people, freezing their bank accounts, and so that statement was made at the beginning of Trudeau's reign here in Canada. And so what did we see happen during the convoy is actually he started to carry out those steps to become a basic dictatorship in Canada. And so, but, you know, like I said, we're at a point here where we're finally able to get rid of this guy. And you know, if you think about Trudeau's history, you know, his dad was a communist, right? And you know, communism, I believe, is a learned behavior. And so if you're going to hang around with a bunch of communists as a kid, what do you think you're going to grow up to be? You're going to grow up to be a communist. And that's exactly, you know, what is played out here during Trudeau's leadership here in Canada. And so thank God today we'll get some relief with this announcement. But, you know, like I said, we still got a long ways to go. And hopefully at the end of this process, we get a government similar to, you know, the government that's coming into power in the United States. And hopefully, you know, the two entities will come together and, you know, we can, you know, make America great again, make Canada great again as well, you know, and hopefully Pierre and Donald Trump can get together and you know, get back to some sort of sanity in the world. You know what I mean? So
There's a very famous Watergate era tape in which former President Richard Nixon, then President, and Henry Kissinger are in the Oval Office and they're having a conversation. And Nixon says to Kissinger, well, I met Pierre Trudeau, the leader of Canada, yesterday. And Kissinger says, really, Mr. President, what was he like? And Nixon said, you know, Henry, he's the biggest asshole I've ever met in my entire life. So there it is. The acorn has not fallen far from the tree. Troy, I should also say, for folks who want to see my friend Theo Fleury, he has his own show, Fire and Ice, which is available at CanadiansForTruth.ca. You can go directly to CanadiansForTruth.ca, or if you want to go to StoneZONE.com, on our opening page, there is a portal to go directly to that network. There are many great shows there, other freedom tellers, truth tellers there. But again, CanadiansForTruth.ca. I strongly urge you to check it out. Troy, what else we got here on our friend Justin Trudeau before we go to American politics for a few minutes?
Well, Roger, we have one more video that this is a submission, funny video, and we just want to play this. This is Trump and Trudeau in an edit. Let's play that.
that's so good. That's so good.
All right, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on here to domestic politics, but there's a rumor going around that if Trudeau resigns, that Christina Freeland, another villain, could become prime minister. She is a hardcore Marxist. Any thoughts on that before you go, Theo?
Yeah, I don't think. Well, her grandfather was a Nazi, right? So that tells you everything you need to know. And the simple fact that, you know, a former journalist is, you know, the finance minister in Canada, and we are, I don't even know, almost $2 trillion in debt now since she came on board. Yeah. There is also some rumors that Mark Carney, Wall Street financial guy, World Satanic Forum disciple, is probably the leading front runner to replace Trudeau as the leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. And we do not want any part of this guy becoming leader of this country at all. He's a very slick talking, smart communist, and yeah, we don't want any part of that. So, you know, and I think Chrystia Freeland, you know, she's also worn out her welcome. She had to resign as the finance minister, and so, and what the polls are showing is that the Liberal Party will actually probably get wiped out in the next election. I'm hoping that they get 0 seats and their party has to dissolve and maybe form a different kind of Liberal Party. But at the end of the day, it's looking more and more like similar to what happened in the United States, that there will be a landslide conservative victory where Pierre Poilievre will become the Prime Minister of Canada. And hopefully, when that happens, we can get some semblance towards sanity back into our country. I'm a guy that got sober in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the third step in the program came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And what's happened here in Canada and in any communist regime is they take God out of the equation and they remove him. And that is what we've seen happen during Trudeau's reign. Is there is no talk of spirituality, there is no talk of God. And when you take God out of the equation, what do you get? You get chaos and insanity. And so hopefully at some point here, we can get back to some sort of a semblance of sanity in our country. And hopefully that'll happen here in 2025. But I also believe that Trump will have a major influence on Canada because we do share a border. And like you said, we have been in bed with China for way too long. And for those of you that are listening, Americans, that, you need to pay attention to what's going on in Canada, because like I said, we are so close and we share a border that China has definitely infiltrated the Canadian government, and that is a bad thing for America.
All right. I want to thank our very special guest and my good friend, professional hockey legend, outspoken Christian, and true believer in freedom, Theo Fleury, for joining us today on the Stone Zone. Folks, I know this is going to upset a lot of Canadian liberals, but I am going to Canada this year. Going to be visiting with Theo and my good friend Joseph. Please give Joseph my regards. Looking forward. We're going to have formal announcements of that soon. But Theo, God bless you and Happy New Year.
Yes, you too, Roger. You guys take care. It was great to be with you.
Many thanks. All right, Troy, let's get into some domestic U.S. politics for the time that we have left. Joe Biden seems to be giving out medals left and right. I guess I shouldn't be surprised that he gave a medal to George Soros, a proud Nazi collaborator, a man who said on 60 Minutes that the greatest time in his life was when he was helping the Nazis round up his fellow Jews in Hungary. Tell us about this.
Well, Roger, exactly right. He called it happy making. He called it magical. And we have a video. So it was the son of George Soros. Apparently, George is in such poor health he couldn't travel to the White House. So his son, who's becoming more prevalent here, Roger, is meeting with, we've seen photos of him meeting with world leaders, Pelosi, Schumer, all these people. So let's show the video of Alex Soros receiving this Presidential Medal of Freedom from Biden for his father, George Soros. And then let's roll the video of what you described. George Soros on 60 Minutes, shockingly saying that collaborating with Nazi soldiers, rounding up his fellow Jews in Germany during World War II was the happiest time of his life. Let's roll this and come back to you, Roger, on the shocking clip. This is what Biden awards the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Accepting on behalf of George Soros is Alex Soros. The Presidential Medal of Freedom is awarded to George Soros.
You're a Hungarian Jew who escaped the Holocaust by posing as a Christian.
Right.
And you watched Lots of people get shipped off to the death camps.
Right. I was 14 years old. And I would say that that's when my character was made.
In what way?
That one should think ahead, one should understand and anticipate events, and one is threatened. It was a tremendous threat of evil. I mean, it was a very personal experience of evil.
My understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson.
Yes.
Went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from the Jews.
That's right. Yes.
I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult?
Not at all. Not at all. Maybe as a child you don't see the connection, but it created no problem at all.
No feeling of guilt.
No.
For example, that I'm Jewish, and here I am watching these people go. I could just as easily be there. I should be there. None of that.
Well, of course, I could be on the other side, or I could be the one from whom the thing is being taken away.
I mean, that is shocking. By the way, CBS has tried to deny that video exists. Kudos to Alex Jones for digging it up. George Soros, of course, cannot go to his native country of Hungary because he's charged there with crimes against arrested under an existing warrant. By the way, he has paid people who have gone on social media to advocate the assassination of Donald Trump. That is a federal crime for which one can be charged in the United States. But, well, we still, at least until January 20th, have a two-tiered justice system where some people are held responsible for crimes, and in other cases, crimes are fabricated against people in order to try to incarcerate them and keep them out of our political movement. Also shocking, a Medal of Honor for Liz Cheney. This is laughable. Liz Cheney is an attorney, therefore she knows that her circumventing the represented witnesses like Cassidy Hutchinson on the January 6th committee to coach her on perjurious testimony around the back of her lawyer. That is grounds for her disbarment. At a minimum, we hope that she is disbarred. Also, the suppression of witnesses, the destruction of evidence, multiple crimes by Liz Cheney. No, she's not a hero. She's just a criminal like her father. You may recall that her father lied this country into a war in Iraq in which tens of thousands of Americans and hundreds of thousands of Iraqis lost their lives so that Dick Cheney could fatten his portfolio over there at Halliburton. As vice president, he said his Halliburton stock was in a blind trust. Well, how blind can it be if you know that the trust contains Halliburton Trust? War profiteers, aided and abetted by the criminal Bill Kristol, who, if his last name was Smith, would be unemployable entirely, one of the great neo-con families. Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, Bill Kristol, you have blood on your hands, and not a small amount. The other thing that's... Go ahead, Troy.
Well, and Roger, just on that note, I wanted to play this clip of Adam Schiff talking about Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and the J6 committee. And this is becoming a hot button issue, Roger, because I believe these Democrats are examining kind of their conduct, and they're looking that there's a new sheriff in town, that Mike Johnson has been reelected as House Speaker. President Trump's going to be back in the White House, and that they could face accountability for exactly what you just described: circumventing the rule of law, breaking the law in order to fix a political outcome that was beneficial to them and most importantly, detrimental to their biggest political enemy, Donald Trump. Let's roll this clip of Adam Schiff, who I believe is complicit in all this. Want to get your take on the cover up now from all these Democrats involved with the J6 committee. They seem to be running scared.
All of us on the committee, I think, are very proud of the work that we did. We stand behind it. I'm glad to see President Biden acknowledge the role of our Chairman Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney. Adam Kinzinger, I think, also, as a Republican, showed great courage. And the witnesses that came before the committee were so powerful because they were Republicans, because they put the country first. So who knows what the president means? I guess we'll find out. But we stand behind our work.
This is great. It will only be a matter of time before Congressman Schiff is in front of a grand jury. This is a man who said that he had seen, quote, more than circumstantial evidence of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign, and produced none. He can repeat the lie that high-level Trump campaign officials gave polling information to a man who was a Russian intelligence asset, but that is 100% a lie. Adam Schiff is about to learn that no person, not even pencil-neck senators from from California, are above the law. I have a friend in Los Angeles, a brilliant lawyer. He has the entire case ready to be presented to a grand jury regarding Mr. Schiff's repeated violations of federal law. No longer will we have a two-tiered justice system, but a justice system in which everyone is judged early. But you can always tell when Adam Schiff is lying. His lips are moving. Last week, the Inspector General of the Biden Justice Department released a report that said that Congressman Adam Schiff and Congressman Eric Swalwell were leaking classified documents to media outlets with the full knowledge of the FBI. That is a felony for which Mr. Schiff should be prosecuted. No, he's not going to be able to hide behind his status as a member of Congress. There is clearly justice coming, and these leftists know it. Proud of your work? What are you proud of on the January 6th committee? The suppression of witnesses like Ray Epps? When was his testimony? I don't recall his testimony. The provable manipulation with AI of videos and audios that you played, the subverting of the perjury of Cassidy Hutchinson. Look, Adam Schiff is the single most despicable member of Congress. But now that he's left the House, it's a man-to-man race between Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman to see who will be the bigger liar, the bigger demagogue, the bigger criminal in the U.S. House of Representatives. Right now, I would have to give Raskin a slight edge. Just days ago, he called for insurrection in today's certification of the election of President Trump. See, when Trump questions whether there should be a delay in the certification, that's a crime. But when Raskin, who's kind of who's a Marxist, an open Marxist like his father, when he does it, it's perfectly all right. He's also been a critic of the Trump pardon, saying that Trump acted politically when he pardoned General Flynn, myself, and Paul Manafort. Yet he's deep in negotiations with Joe Biden, trying to get a pardon for himself and his fellow criminals. When he says the difference is they, meaning us, we committed crimes and they didn't, it's exactly the other way around. Jamie, you're busted. We got enough to go to the grand jury tomorrow. People have been watching you. We know what you have done. We have to hope this is not retaliation. It's not revenge. What it is a rebalancing of the scales of justice. When people like John Brennan, the former CIA director, the man who, by the way, signed off on 4 of the hijackers who came to the United States and attacked America on 9/11, signed off on their visas as the head of the CIA station in Rita. A man who admits that he is a former communist, that he voted for the Communist Party of Canada, and a man who converted to radical Islam. Yes, we've had witnesses on the show who have documented this. When he went to the English-speaking allied nations, the so-called Five Eyes, and said that these 26 friends of Donald Trump, including yours truly, need to be monitored. What was your rationale for that, Mr. Brennan? Get ready to answer that question in front of the grand jury. Justice is really coming, my friends. I think that the world has moved full circle, and the universe will always correct itself. Troy, your thoughts?
Well, Roger, you're exactly right. And I will say that it will be taken out of context what you just said, because people will say, oh, well, this is retribution. And I think the idea here is that people like Norm Eisen, people like Andrew Weissman, people like Adam Schiff, they've always been above the law. They've always been able to conduct themselves however they please and really create any kind of information they want, because they've had absolute control over the information, over the levers of power that would traditionally hold people accountable. And what we're seeing, the apoplexy in Congress, I believe, Roger, is this fear that for once, there's going to be an equal balance to that scale of justice that you talked about, and that they will actually be held accountable for what they've done. That is their biggest fear. You mentioned the kind of Russian collusion hoax there, and a big player in that was a gentleman that I just mentioned, Roger, a man named Norm Eisen. He was a huge part of the 2020 election. He was a huge part of the prosecution of so many people, including yourself. And now he is out in the open criticizing Kash Patel, writing huge articles, publishing them everywhere he can, trashing Kash Patel. We actually have a headline where he says that Kash Patel is a conspiracy theorist because he highlighted FBI involvement, potential FBI involvement in January 6th. Now, this guy has a history of being one of the biggest sleaze bags in the country. I want to open this up for you to really tell us what's going on with Norm Eisen and why is he so scared of Kash Patel potentially being nominated as FBI director?
Well, Norm Eisen is not a fool. He knows that there's overwhelming evidence that the January 6th events were a government planned insurrection. Norm, you're going to the grand jury. You're going to answer many, many, many questions under oath. And this is what he fears. I would point you, for example, to the terrific coverage at revolver.news by Dr. Darren Beatty. Overwhelming evidence of January 6th Fedsurrection, that this was a setup. Norm knows it. Norm knows he's headed to the grand jury. Norm knows that he's a target for his various treasonous and illegal activities. The shoe's on the other foot. And Norm, here's a surprise for you. You're not going to get tried in Washington, D.C. You're going to get tried in a jurisdiction where there'll be an honest judge and an unbiased jury. Justice is coming for these people. They sought to destroy my life. They sought to destroy Donald Trump's life. They sought to destroy Donald Trump's presidency. Talk about not qualified. Hey, Norm, Kash Patel has 100, probably that's an exaggeration, 30 IQ points on you, dude. He is the most qualified candidate for FBI director. And the reason they fear him, Troy, is because he is the one who conducted the investigation into the Russian collusion hoax that was run by House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. So he knows what you did, Norm. He knows what Neil Keitel did, Norm. He knows what Adam Weissman did, Norm. He knows what Mary McCord did, Norm. We've got you. We've got the goods. You're going to be answering these questions under oath in front of a grand jury. The shoe's on the other foot. It's not retribution. It's not revenge. It's equal treatment under the law. You tried to destroy me. You just tried to destroy my wife. You tried to destroy my family. Now you will be held accountable for your crimes. It is a new day in America. Some good news that I think we can believe. Senate Majority Leader Thune telling President Trump yesterday, according to press reports, that the votes now exist for the confirmation of Pete Hegseth to be Defense Secretary. I pray that this information is correct. I believe it is. Also telling him late yesterday that the votes now exist to confirm Robert F. Kennedy Jr. As the Secretary of HHS. The most difficult fight here, of course, is over Tulsi Gabbard. They are petrified of Tulsi Gabbard. They try to diminish or demean her patriotism, her loyalty to the country, but that's because they know that if she is the director of national intelligence, she will be at the nexus to be able to expose all of the crimes of the FBI and the CIA. We were in this position before in the late 70s when all the excesses and the corruption of the CIA came out through Senate hearings. Jimmy Carter, one of the few good things that he did was an attempt to clean up the CIA by appointing a new director, Admiral Stansfield Turner. There was a huge effort within the CIA to mushroom him, to prevent him from learning what had really happened there. Sadly, with the election of Ronald Reagan, George Bush and his cronies were able to move back into the Central Intelligence Agency. You have a whole new day here. America, Troy, is on the cusp of a golden age. Let's call it the age of Trump. It will be an unprecedented age of peace, prosperity, security, justice, and yes, law and order. That's what we've been talking about here on the Stone Zone for the past year. It is now being realized. Nothing can stop what is coming in terms of the rise of Donald Trump to the unprecedented office of president. Only one president, as you know, Grover Cleveland, a New Yorker, was elected, then defeated in a disputed election, and then returned to the White House. It is generally admitted that he was a much better president, more reform-oriented president in his second term. In a weird way, I think Trump will be an even greater president than he was in his first term because he was denied a second term. And this gave him a view into the window of how the deep state really functions. They tried to bankrupt him. They tried to keep him off the ballot in all 50 states. They tried to incarcerate him. They're still trying. It's okay when Jamie Raskin, the communist congressman from Maryland, he can question the election. That's perfectly all right. But when Donald Trump questions the outcome of the election, well, they try to charge him for a crime. These days are over, folks. There are better days coming. I saw President Trump at Mar-a-Lago this past Friday night. He was in an excellent mood. I've never seen him in such a good mood. He is deeply involved in his own transition, not now just at the cabinet level, but looking at the number 2 and the number 3 and the number 4 jobs in each department, focusing on the independent departments of government, agencies of government like the FCC and the SEC, for example. This is an enlightened and far wiser Donald Trump, and therefore I think on the cusp of being an even greater president in his second term than he was in his first. All right, I want to thank our very special guest, Theo Fleury. You can find him again at CanadiansForTruth.ca, CanadiansForTruth.ca. He does a great show there, Fire and Ice. Urge you to check it out. I want to thank my co-host, Troy Smith. Troy, you have a new show. Tell us very quickly about that, if you will.
Absolutely. If you check us out on Worldview Tube, we're in the 3 p.m. slot right before the Stone Zone. We highlight some of the biggest issues going on politically, and it's really taken off. We had over 40,000 views on the last show, so thank you guys for watching. Hope everybody will tune in. You can find us at Slingshot News on Twitter, on Facebook, same thing, Slingshot News, or YouTube, Slingshot News, same thing right now.
All right. On behalf of myself and my co-host, Troy Smith, I want to thank you for joining us today in the Stone Zone. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?